All right, welcome. Today, we're going to tackle something pretty provocative. We're diving deep into a very controversial theory about human connection, influence, and even seduction. We're going to be breaking down the ideas from a text that looks at a much darker, more complicated side of psychology. So let's get into it. The source material that we're digging into today, it starts with this exact question. And it's a question that really makes you stop and think, right? It totally challenges this idea that we just pick people based on simple logic or what we like. It suggests that there's something much, much deeper, and frankly, maybe a little more uncomfortable pulling the strings. And that's our whole goal here today. To be really clear, we're here to analytically deconstruct this specific theory. We are not endorsing it. We're not telling you to go use it. We're simply laying out its arguments piece by piece so we can all understand its internal logic and, of course, its pretty profound implications.
Okay, so the whole theory, the entire thing, is built on one single powerful idea: the absolutely central role that emotional pain plays in shaping who we are, and maybe more importantly, what we desperately want.
This is really interesting because what the theory does here is it completely reframes pain. It's not just some bad thing that happens to us. No, it's presented as the primary engine for our deepest needs. According to this text, if you can see the wound, you can see the need that it created. And that, it argues, is the real key to influence. So here's the absolute bottom line of the premise. The theory is basically saying forget about surface level attraction, looks, shared hobbies, all that stuff. It argues that we are unconsciously powerfully drawn to people who somehow resonate with our deepest, unhealed emotional injuries. It's like we're seeking a way to finally resolve something we might not even consciously know is broken. So that brings up a huge question, right? How does a wound from the past have so much power over us right here, right now, in the present? Well, the theory proposes that trauma, it writes an invisible script that we end up living our lives by. And this is where the source's definition of trauma becomes really, really important. It's not just a bad memory. The text calls it an active, ongoing injury to the soul. It's an event that was so powerful, so overwhelming, that it literally rewired a person's brain, creating this whole new set of unconscious rules for how to survive and interact with the world. And these examples, they show you just what those rules can look like. These aren't just passing thoughts. The source claims they are these deeply ingrained beliefs that are just always running in the background. It's like a subconscious operating system that shapes our gut reactions and our biggest decisions, often without us having a clue. And over time, this script, it's not just a script anymore. It becomes a person's reality. It's what dictates who they feel safe with, who they instinctively pull away from, and what they secretly, desperately long for in another person. It's like a silent director for the entire drama of their life. Okay, so we've got the psychology down. Now, here's where the theory makes a really sharp turn from just psychology into actual strategy. It argues that these very same wounds, the ones that cause so much pain, also create this powerful opening for a deep, deep connection. Or, as the text calls it, for seduction. Here we go. This is the core mechanic of the entire theory. It's this almost mathematical relationship between a specific wound and a specific longing. For every single pain, there is a corresponding, an incredibly powerful craving. So, for example, someone who was neglected as a child doesn't just want attention, they crave it on a fundamental level. Or someone who's been abandoned might have this deep, deep-seated need for unbreakable loyalty. And this is the paradox the text keeps coming back to. It's this idea that a person's defenses, their suspicion, their standoffishness, their emotional distance, they aren't just barriers to keep you out. The theory argues they're actually signposts. They're giant flashing neon signs pointing directly to the wound they're trying to protect and to the longing they are desperate to have fulfilled. So, if you have this framework, this sort of map to a person's inner world, how does one supposedly create this deep influence? Well, the text lays out a very specific, step-by-step playbook designed to completely bypass those defenses and speak directly to that wound. And what's really interesting is that these aren't aggressive tactics. Not at all. It's all about creating an environment of such profound safety and understanding that the other person feels like they can finally, willingly lower their guard. The focus is 100% on them, making them feel seen and heard in a way they maybe never have before. The theory then breaks this down even further. into what's essentially a tactical map. It suggests that if you can identify a core wound, let's say criticism, you can accurately predict the fear it triggers, in this case, a huge sensitivity to any kind of judgment. And then you can offer the specific action, the so-called antidote, which would be validation and acceptance. So you see the pattern? Identify the wound, predict the fear, and offer the cure. It's presented as a very analytical way to approach connection. And this leads us right to the most important part of this entire breakdown. We're now standing on an ethical razor's edge. And what's fascinating is that the source material itself completely admits how dangerous this knowledge can be. This is a direct warning from the text. I mean, it doesn't get much clearer than that. It is openly stating that this deep understanding of human pain is a tool. And just like any powerful tool, its morality, whether it's good or bad, depends entirely on the intention of the person who's using it. And this is how the theory lays out the two different paths. On the surface, the methods might look exactly the same. You're listening, you're validating, you're showing you understand. But the text argues that the intent behind those actions changes literally everything. Is your goal to form a genuine connection, or is it just to get something for yourself? The end result, it claims, couldn't be more different. Either a real, lasting bond, or just a temporary seduction. This final quote from the source really just sums up the entire philosophy. It's saying that the ultimate form of connection, the most profound kind of influence you can have, doesn't come from trying to impress someone. It comes from having the courage and the perception to see their deepest pain and to not turn away. And so that's the critical question we're left with, isn't it? When you understand someone's deepest, most tender vulnerabilities, where exactly is that line between compassionately connecting with them and strategically using that knowledge? It's a question this theory absolutely forces us to confront. And the answer? Well, the answer might only be found in our own true intentions.